First ever has been a phrase we've seen a lot with former President Donald Trump. He got a new one on Monday by filing for the New Hampshire primary. He's now the first ever person who's served as a president to file such paperwork in person more than once. Trump won the 2016 and 2020 Republican primaries there, but lost the state in both general elections. CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett joins us now. Major, it's good to see you again since we last talked. Two lawyers involved in Donald Trump's conspiracy case in Georgia have pleaded guilty. How big a deal is that?
It's a very big deal, John, for this reason. It's no longer an alleged crime what happened in Georgia in relation to the 2020 election. It's an actual crime. And two people who are now convicts, Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro, have pled guilty. Sidney Powell to 6 misdemeanors, Kenneth Chesebro to 1 felony. So it's not an alleged crime anymore. It's an actual crime, a crime against democracy, where Georgia is protecting its right to conduct elections as it sees fit and punish those who try to overturn those results, which is what, in the main, Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro have pled guilty to. In Sidney Powell's case, it's fascinating and noteworthy, John, that the president, the former president, is trying to distance himself from Sidney Powell, saying recently on his social media platform that Sidney Powell was never his attorney, never an attorney for the campaign. And yet, let's go back in the Wayback Machine to November 15th, 2020. A tweet put out by then President Trump announcing to all the world that Sidney Powell was part of what? His legal team challenging the result of the 2020 election. And let's go to November 19th, 4 days later, 2020, when at the Republican National Committee headquarters, Rudy Giuliani introduced Sidney Powell as what? One of the attorneys representing the campaign in election challenges regarding 2020. Why is the president distancing himself from Sidney Powell? Because he knows she, like Kenneth Chesebro, can now and will, because of their plea deals, provide witness testimony in the Georgia case and quite possibly in the special counsel's case against the former president. This matters because they are direct witnesses. They're not from afar, they're up close about what was discussed and the legal ramifications for the former president and those close to him. It's a big deal indeed.
Switching now to the campaign on the Republican side, the editorial board at the Post and Courier, South Carolina's biggest newspaper, would like all the rest of the Republican candidates to leave the field, their former governor, Nikki Haley, to be the one alternative to Donald Trump. Is there any, I mean, that's obviously been the argument for months and months and months. Any chance that's actually going to happen as we get later into the race?
John, throughout our career, you and I have noted the declining value of endorsements from newspapers. Well, this isn't an endorsement per se. It is a plea to those Republicans not named Nikki Haley to get out of the race. It will probably have the same effect that most newspaper endorsements have, negligible. And here's the larger problem for Republicans hoping that former President Trump won't be the nominee. According to the consensus of all current polls, he's at roughly 57 to 59%. If you take all of the non-Trump Republicans, excluding Vivek Ramaswamy, who's sort of a mini-Trump, that comes to 29% if you add up all their supports. You take all the non-Trump support, it's still 30 points away from where the former president is right now. Yeah. That is a glaring and unhappy political reality for the Republican Party, which sees the prospects of beating Joe Biden or whomever the Democratic nominee will be in 2024, though it looks very much like it's going to be the current president. How to stop Trump from becoming the nominee is the conundrum the Republican Party simply cannot solve, and there's no apparent way, and before us, John, that it will.
And very briefly, Major, as Nicole reported, the former president is kind of at the center of the conversation in the House Speaker's race. And many of the ones who are running denied the outcome of the last election or voted not to certify. You wrote the book essentially on election denialism and its virulent effect on campaigns going forward. How do you read the fact that so many of them that are running either denied it or even participated, as Emmer did, in supporting the Texas case?
Because that was the default position of House Republicans writ large after the 2020 election. Not that they believed it. I've talked to many who don't actually fundamentally believe it, believe Instead, that it was politically expedient for them to answer the call of the Trump-inspired base of their party to do something about the 2020 election, and that do something was not to vote to certify. But it is becoming a part of the conversation for House Republicans. Can the Speaker be someone who denied the election? In Jim Jordan's case last week, that was a definitive no. We'll see how it plays out this week.
Major Garrett in Washington. Thank you, as always, Major.